When nothing seems to work, when every path feels closed and every answer falls short, there exists a hidden exit few are ever meant to find. Within the hidden exit lies the one shift that doesn't fix the surface, but ends the cycle at its root. Do this once with true understanding, and you will feel it instantly. This ends it, and there is no going back. The Hidden Exit. Introduction. When every path fades into shadow and each door stands unmoved by your efforts, you are not lost. You are standing before a veiled passage, one that reveals itself only to those who stop searching. In the quiet collapse of striving lies a sacred turning point. This is where the hidden exit begins to stir, not as something found, but as something unveiled when the seeker dissolves. You have been taught to chase, to plan, to bend reality with effort. But the deeper current of existence does not answer to force. It listens instead to stillness. Between your thoughts, beneath your urgency, there exists a silent field, and it is here that creation truly awakens. The hidden exit does not open to control. It appears when control is released. When the need to dictate outcomes softens, a different intelligence begins to move through you. This is not surrender as defeat, but surrender as alignment, a sacred shift from striving to allowing, from resistance to flow. The law of attraction is not stirred by longing alone. It blooms in trust. It responds to the quiet certainty that what is meant will arrive, not through pressure, but through harmony. What you seek is not distant. It has been circling you, waiting for the moment you loosen your grip. What feels like emptiness is not absence. It is initiation, a threshold. The universe is not denying you. It is inviting you beyond effort, beyond limitation, into a space where being replaces doing. Here, manifestation is no longer a task, but a natural unfolding. Now your path changes, not toward more action, but toward deeper trust, not toward control, but toward clarity of presence. The hidden exit does not lie ahead. It reveals itself within the stillness you are willing to enter. Before we get into the book, comment, "I am ready," to affirm your intention to the universe. Part 1. The Collapse of Doing. Chapter 1. The Wall of Effort. In the depths of dawn, a woman named Lila Mae Dawson stood before her mirror, lips moving in familiar patterns of affirmation. Day after day, year after year, she had faithfully repeated her intentions until one morning the words echoed back empty, devoid of power. Her reflection gazed back, mute and unresponsive, and in that startling silence, a deeper truth began to emerge. The universe whispers its most precious teachings through the language of stillness. When your words lose their force, when your strategies crumble, you stand at the threshold of true magnetism. The self that strives, that pushes against the current of life, creates the very resistance it seeks to overcome. Your efforts, however well-intentioned, can become the walls that separate you from the natural flow of abundance. Consider the tale of Clayton Reed, a man who found wisdom in loss. When his business collapsed, he discovered himself drawn to an ancient fountain in a forgotten corner of the city. There, amidst the gentle sound of flowing water, he ceased his desperate planning. In that surrender, clarity arose unbidden, like morning mist lifting from still waters. His transformation came not through action, but through the acceptance of what was. These stories mirror the fundamental truth of manifestation, that your greatest power lies not in doing, but in being. When nothing responds to your calls, when affirmations fall flat and strategies yield only exhaustion, the universe is not denying you. It is stripping away the layers of false effort, preparing you for a deeper current of creation. The sacred practice of surrender. Find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed. Close your eyes and allow your breath to flow naturally, without attempting to control its rhythm. Feel the rise and fall of your chest, the subtle movement of life flowing through you. Notice the spaces between your thoughts, the moments of pure being that exist beyond effort and striving. Let each breath dissolve the need to manage outcomes. Allow yourself to simply exist in the space where doing ceases and being begins. Feel the gentle lift in your chest, like the moon drawing the tides, as you align with the natural current of life. Remain here until the urge to control fades and you sense the quiet power of allowance moving through you. This practice is not about achieving anything. It is about discovering what remains when the need to achieve falls away. In this space, creation flows not from effort, but from alignment with the silent force that moves all things. Chapter 2. The Mirror That Refused. Mary Lou Jenkins meticulously arranged her crystals each morning, organized her vision boards with precision, and recited affirmations with clockwork regularity. Yet with each polished ritual, a deeper weariness settled into her bones. Her home gleamed with intention, every corner a shrine to manifestation, but abundance remained stubbornly distant. The more she scrubbed and arranged, the more life seemed to mock her efforts. This mirrors the fundamental paradox at the heart of creation. The more desperately we attempt to control our manifestations, the more they slip through our grasp like water. The universe responds not to the perfection of our external actions, but to the resonance of our inner state. When you cease the endless preparation and simply align with what you seek, the path reveals itself effortlessly. Consider how a flower blooms. It does not strain or struggle. It simply opens in perfect harmony with the sun. This natural unfoldment contains more power than all our careful calculations. The law of attraction operates through this same principle of effortless alignment. Fletcher Boyd understood this truth through his garden. Day after day, he tended barren soil, his anxiety growing with each seedling that failed to sprout. He whispered desperate affirmations to the earth, believing if he could just find the right words, life would burst forth. But the ground remained silent, unmoved by his pleading. Then one morning, exhausted by hope, Fletcher simply sat in his garden. He stopped needing the seeds to grow. He stopped requiring proof of his worth through their germination. In that moment of pure acceptance, he felt at peace with the barren soil exactly as it was. Within days, the first tender shoots appeared, not summoned by his will, but drawn forth by his surrender. The surface of life will always mirror your inner state. When you polish circumstances from anxiety, you only magnify the very lack you seek to eliminate. But when you rest in the knowing that all is well, exactly as it is, reality reshapes itself around that certainty. Practice. Find a mirror and sit before it in silence. Don't try to change what you see or affirm what you wish to become. Simply gaze at your reflection until all judgment dissolves. Feel complete love and acceptance for the being you are right now, requiring nothing to be different. Let this unconditional presence be your offering to the universe. In this space of total acceptance, watch how life begins to shift around you, drawn by the magnetic power of your self-love. Chapter 3. The Unmaking. In the depths of a moonlit garden, Polly Grant arranged her meditation cushions with meticulous precision. Each morning she waited, desperately seeking visions, signs, or spectacular revelations. Her determination to manufacture mystical experiences left her feeling hollow, convinced she had somehow failed the spiritual path. Yet in this very emptiness lay the treasure she sought. The universe speaks not through forced epiphanies, but through the sacred void that cleanses the cluttered mind. Like a vessel being emptied of stale water before it can receive fresh springs, your consciousness must first release its accumulated noise. This emptying is not failure. It is divine preparation. When you cease demanding that spirituality perform for you, authentic guidance flows naturally. The law of attraction responds not to the intensity of your seeking, but to the clarity of your receiving. In the space between thoughts, in the silence between breaths, wisdom plants its subtle seeds. Theodore Nash understood this truth only after losing his ability to compose music. For years his identity had been wrapped in creating melodies, until one day the notes fell silent. In his despair, he wandered into an ancient grove where towering trees swayed in the wind. There, surrounded by nature's whispers, he discovered that creation itself was an act of listening rather than forcing. The songs that later flowed through him came not from striving, but from surrender to the universal symphony. What appears as emptiness is actually the canvas upon which the universe paints its masterpiece. When life feels suspended, when inspiration seems distant, know that beneath the surface, new harmonies are being composed. Your role is not to force the music, but to become the instrument through which it plays. The sacred pause in your journey is not a punishment or sign of regression. It is the universe's way of clearing the channel. Just as a radio must be properly tuned to receive clear transmission, your consciousness requires moments of stillness to align with higher frequencies. Practice. Rest gently in the pause, releasing all demands for immediate revelation. Allow the stillness to envelop you like a soft blanket. Feel its rhythm, its pulse, its silent song. Let it flow through you until you become one with its cadence. In this space of pure being, the next note of your life's symphony will emerge with natural grace, played through you by the grand composer of all creation. Chapter 4. The Misdirected Prayer. In the depths of night, Agnes Pearl knelt beside her bed, fingers interlocked so tightly they turned white. Her prayers emerged as desperate commands, each word a hammer striking against heaven's door. Yet the universe responds not to force, but to frequency. This truth lies at the heart of authentic manifestation. When you grasp at desired outcomes, you speak the language of absence. Your very striving announces to the universe that what you seek exists separately from you, reinforcing the illusion of distance between yourself and your dreams. This separation is the first barrier to manifestation, a wall built of wanting. The law of attraction flows through channels of allowing, not through corridors of control. It responds to the magnetic pull of gratitude, not the pushing force of demand. Within gratitude lies the seed of receiving. For how can you truly give thanks unless at some level you recognize the gift as already yours? Consider the tale of Simon Brooks, who found himself suddenly without employment. Instead of wrestling with worry, he chose an unusual path, expressing genuine appreciation for the perfect position that, to physical eyes, did not yet exist. Each morning, he sat in peaceful contemplation, feeling the warmth of gratitude for his new role, though no offer had materialized. He thanked his future colleagues, celebrated his contributions, and felt the joy of purposeful work, all while his external reality showed no signs of change. The next morning, his phone rang with an unexpected opportunity. The position aligned so precisely with his vision that it seemed crafted from his grateful contemplation. Yet this was no miracle. It was the natural operation of universal law, responding to his shift from desperate seeking to peaceful knowing. Your prayers are not requests sent to a distant power. They are attunements to what already exists in the infinite field of possibility. When you pray from a place of completion rather than lack, you align with the frequency of fulfillment. This is the art of spiritual manifestation. To feel so deeply grateful for your desire that you transform into its living embodiment. Practice for alignment. Find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Begin to whisper, "Thank you," for what you desire, as though it already exists within your experience. Feel the reality of having received it, not as a future event, but as a present truth. Let this gratitude fill every cell of your being until you become the very essence of thankful receiving. Maintain this state until it feels more real than any apparent absence. This is not pretense. It is attunement to the deeper reality where all possibilities already exist. Chapter 5. The Sound of Resistance. In a small apartment overlooking the city, Clara Dean stood before her mirror each morning, forcing her lips into a smile. "I am happy. I am blessed. I am abundant," she would declare, her voice growing louder to drown out the tremor of uncertainty within. Yet with each manufactured affirmation, an invisible weight pressed heavier upon her shoulders. The universe responds not to the words we speak, but to the energy we emanate. When you chase positivity as though it were a butterfly just beyond reach, you acknowledge its absence in your current reality. This recognition of lack becomes the very frequency you broadcast into the cosmic field. True manifestation flows not from forced optimism, but from authentic alignment. When you release the exhausting pursuit of perpetual positivity, you create space for genuine resonance with the universal flow. The law of attraction operates through your natural state of being, not through the persona you believe you must maintain. Leonard Tate's journey mirrors this truth. As a renowned motivational speaker, he filled auditoriums with his booming voice and electric energy. Yet beneath the thunderous applause lay a whisper of emptiness. It wasn't until he lost his voice, quite literally, that transformation found him. In the months of enforced silence, Leonard discovered a different kind of power. Sitting in his garden, watching leaves dance in the wind, he stopped trying to motivate the world and simply allowed himself to be. When he finally returned to speaking, his words carried a gentle authenticity that touched hearts more deeply than his former passionate declarations ever had. His audience felt not the urge to chase happiness, but permission to exist in their truth. Through this acceptance, Genuine joy began to blossom naturally in their lives. The wisdom here lies not in rejecting positive emotions, but in understanding that true positivity cannot be forced. It emerges organically when you grant yourself permission to feel whatever is present in your experience. This authentic acknowledgement becomes the fertile soil from which natural joy springs forth. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Release the pressure to feel or appear positive. Simply breathe and allow whatever emotions are present to exist without judgment. Notice how this acceptance creates a subtle shift in your energy. Continue this practice daily, observing how genuine lightness naturally emerges when you stop chasing it. Let your true vibration arise from this space of honest being. Chapter 6. The Field Between Thoughts. The moon had risen over the mountains when Millie Scott sat at her worn oak desk, mechanically reciting her 100th affirmation of the evening. Her voice grew hoarse as she counted each repetition, marking them in her manifestation journal until the numbers began to swim before her tired eyes. Yet in those precious moments when her voice faltered, when exhaustion forced her to pause between words, something unexpected stirred within her chest. A warmth that rose without invitation, a peace that emerged from the spaces between her efforts. This reveals an essential truth about the nature of manifestation. It is not the words themselves that hold the power, but the quiet vibration that lives beneath them. Like a painter who discovers that the blank canvas holds as much meaning as the strokes of color, Millie found that the gaps between her affirmations carried a potency she had never noticed before. The universe responds not to the volume of our declarations, but to the resonance of our being. When we release the compulsion to fill every moment with spoken intent, we allow the natural frequency of creation to emerge through us. This is the forgotten wisdom. That manifestation flows most purely through the spaces where effort ceases. Consider the tale of Elijah Boone, whose careful hands repaired the delicate mechanisms of time itself. Day after day, he sat at his workbench, surrounded by the precise movements of countless timepieces. Yet it was not in the tick or the tock that he discovered the secret of his craft. It was in the infinitesimal space between them. In that microscopic pause, he glimpsed the dance of creation itself, the subtle moment where 1 second transformed into the next. "The watches taught me," he would say, "that life moves forward not in the marking of time, but in the breath between moments." His finest pieces seemed to emerge from these intervals of silence, as if the watches assembled themselves in the quiet spaces between his thoughts. This truth extends beyond watchmaking to the very essence of manifestation. The power of attraction operates most purely not in our constant affirmations or repeated visualizations, but in those sacred pauses where we allow ourselves to simply be. Ancient practice of the interval. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes. Allow your awareness to settle into the spaces between your thoughts. Notice how these intervals naturally expand, creating pools of silence within your consciousness. Rest here, allowing these gaps to widen and deepen. Feel how outcomes begin to form themselves in these moments of quiet symmetry, like dew gathering on morning leaves. The universe speaks in silence, and it is in these intervals that your desires take shape without effort. Chapter 7. The Fear of Nothing. Dorothy Lane knelt each morning before her vision board, frantic when the images remained flat and lifeless on the paper. Her fingers traced the photos of dreams yet unrealized, the house by the sea, the thriving business, the perfect partner, while anxiety tightened around her chest. In the silence between her pleading affirmations, she heard only emptiness, interpreting the void as abandonment by the universe. When manifestation seemed to pause, a profound truth emerges. The quiet space is not absence, but presence in its purest form. Just as a seed requires darkness before it breaks through soil, your desires gather force in the fertile void of apparent inaction. What appears as delay is divine orchestration, weaving together elements beyond your current vision. The universe operates through perfect timing, not human schedules. When you release your grip on when and how, you allow the natural current of manifestation to flow unimpeded. Trust transforms waiting from punishment into preparation, from emptiness into potential. Warren Bishop discovered this truth in his art studio, where blank canvases once tormented him. For years, he forced each brushstroke, believing creation required constant action. His breakthrough came when he stopped fighting the quiet moments. One evening, exhausted from trying, he simply sat with his untouched canvas. In that surrender, colors began flowing through him effortlessly, as if the painting had always existed and merely needed his relaxed attention to emerge. This same principle governs all manifestation, the field between thoughts, that spacious silence you've been taught to fear, holds the greatest magnetic power. Here, in the gap between doing and being, your desires take form naturally, without the interference of doubt or force. When you resist the quiet, you create static that drowns the universe's whispered guidance. But when you embrace the stillness, you enter the realm where all possibilities exist simultaneously. This is not passive waiting, but active allowing, a state of alert receptivity where you remain open to signs and synchronicities that light your path. Ancient practice of stillness. Find a quiet space and settle into comfortable position. Close your eyes and rest your attention in the space between your thoughts. Don't try to silence your mind. Simply observe the natural pauses that occur. As thoughts arise, neither chase nor reject them. Let them float by like clouds, while you remain centered in the peaceful void. Begin with 5 minutes each morning, gradually extending the duration as you become more comfortable with the silence. Notice how this practice dissolves anxiety about timing and opens you to intuitive guidance. The mystery of manifestation will become your trusted friend rather than a source of fear. Watch as your desires begin manifesting with an ease and grace that no amount of forcing could achieve. The void is not empty. It is where all creation begins. Chapter 8. The Currency of Trust. In the quiet corners of her home office, Janie Ford kept meticulous records of every synchronicity, every small win, every hint of manifestation. Her journal chapters filled with check marks and tallies, measuring the universe's response like a merchant counting coins. Each morning she would review her lists, searching for proof that the law was working. Yet with each audit, her manifestations seemed to slow, like water freezing into ice. The ancient wisdom whispers that measurement is a subtle form of mistrust. When you count your blessings to prove abundance exists, you speak the language of scarcity. The universe responds not to documentation, but to the silent knowing that beats in your heart. Trust is the only currency accepted in the infinite marketplace of creation. Pierce Wallace discovered this truth in his workshop of dreams. As an inventor, he had spent years cataloging his ideas, marking their progress and tracking their reception. His breakthroughs remained modest until the day his ledger fell into a puddle, ink bleeding into meaningless swirls. Something shifted in that moment of loss. He began treating each invention as though it had already found its perfect home in the world. He spoke of his creations as though they were already blessing lives, already changing the world. Within months, his workshop could barely contain the orders flowing in. The universe moves at the speed of trust. When you release the need to verify its workings, your energy aligns with the natural flow of abundance. Counting creates resistance because it implies something might be missing. True manifestation occurs in the space where certainty requires no proof. The ancient practice. Find a quiet moment and hold your desire in your mind as gently as you would hold a precious coin. Feel its weight, its reality, its completeness. Don't analyze whether it's working or count the days until its arrival. Simply rest in the knowing that it already exists in the infinite field of possibilities. Let this certainty fill your being until you no longer need external confirmation. Your trust becomes the bridge upon which your desire walks into physical form. This practice awakens the ancient art of allowing, where manifestation flows not from measurement, but from the unwavering certainty that what you seek is already yours in the unseen realm, simply waiting for your trust to call it forth. Chapter 9. The Myth of Waiting. In a small coastal town, Evelyn Shaw spent her days sketching cafe layouts and studying coffee roasts, yet her dream remained trapped in endless preparation. Each morning she would walk past the empty storefront that called to her heart, listing reasons why the timing wasn't quite right. The market conditions needed to improve, she told herself. The perfect staff had to materialize. The ideal financing must present itself. But perfection never arrived, because waiting itself became a signal to the universe, a broadcast of unreadiness that echoed back as perpetual delay. Your relationship with creation is not a spectator sport. The law of attraction responds not to careful planning, but to energetic participation in the dance of manifestation. Consider the wisdom hidden within every seed. It does not wait for ideal soil temperature, perfect rainfall patterns, and optimal sunlight before beginning its journey toward the surface. It simply starts its growth, and the conditions align to support its emergence. This truth found vivid expression through Barney Quinn, who inherited a rocky plot of land from his grandfather. While others saw only harsh terrain unfit for cultivation, Barney walked among imaginary trees heavy with ripening fruit. Each morning he would tend to his invisible orchard, feeling the weight of apples not yet born, breathing in the sweetness of blossoms still unseeded. He began clearing stones and enriching soil not after conditions improved, but before any visible sign of potential success. His neighbors whispered about his apparent madness, working the land as though it already held what he envisioned. Yet within seasons, tender saplings pushed through earth that many had declared barren. Today, that same land boasts rows of thriving fruit trees, their branches bowing with the weight of abundance. The universe responds not to what you wait for, but to what you energetically declare as truth through action. Every step taken from a place of inner certainty magnetizes the next piece of the puzzle. This is the secret that separates dreamers from creators. The willingness to participate in manifestation before external reality confirms the wisdom of your choice. Sacred practice. Sit in silence and allow your desired reality to fill your inner vision completely. Feel its presence as though it already exists. Now, from this space of completion, ask yourself, what single action, however small, would I take today if I knew with absolute certainty that my desire is already fulfilled? Take that action immediately, letting joy rather than logic guide your movement. Continue this practice daily, allowing each small step to arise naturally from your sense of inner completion rather than outer need. Watch as the universe begins orchestrating circumstances to match your energetic commitment to what is already spiritually true. Chapter 10. The Gentle Collapse. In a sunlit study lined with meticulous planners and charts, Lydia Monroe sat surrounded by the carefully constructed scaffolding of her life. Each hour marked, each goal categorized, each outcome predicted with mathematical precision. For 15 years, she had worn the identity of master planner like armor, believing control would manifest her desires. Yet beneath the surface of her orchestrated existence, a quiet exhaustion grew. One morning, as she reached for her trusted schedule book, her hand trembled and refused to grasp it. The perfectly ordered chapters that once brought comfort now seemed to blur before her eyes. In that moment, something within her surrendered, not with resistance, but with profound relief. The universe had been waiting for this release, this sacred undoing of who she thought she needed to be. The law of attraction operates not through the carefully maintained persona you present to the world, but through the unlimited being you truly are. When identity dissolves, the infinite emerges. This dissolution may feel like loss, yet it is the greatest gateway to receiving. The self that plans, controls, and manages must make room for the self that naturally attracts and creates through alignment. Frank Hollis discovered this truth when his meticulously crafted routines crumbled during an unexpected illness. For decades, he had been the clockwork man, his life a testament to precision and order. Each morning unfolded exactly as planned, until it didn't. Confined to bed, unable to maintain his careful systems, he experienced what felt like the death of his identity. Yet in that space of forced surrender, something remarkable occurred. As his grip on control loosened, life began flowing with unexpected grace. Opportunities appeared without effort, connections formed without planning, and abundance arrived without strategy. From the rubble of his former self emerged a natural rhythm of creation that required no management at all. Your identity, the collection of habits, beliefs, and patterns you call me, can become the very barrier between you and your desires. The universe responds not to the carefully constructed self, but to the authentic energy beneath all pretense. When you release who you think you should be, you create space for who you truly are, and that being naturally magnetizes all that aligns with its frequency. Practice. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Breathe deeply into any area of your life where you feel the need to maintain rigid control. As you exhale, allow the identity attached to that control to soften and dissolve. With each breath, welcome the crumbling of what no longer serves. Feel gratitude for these endings, knowing they create space for new beginnings. Sit with the emptiness until it begins to feel like a doorway rather than an absence. Let this practice continue until you sense a lighter, more expanded version of yourself emerging from the space where control once lived. Part 2. The Turning Inward. Chapter 11. The Listening Heart. In the steam of an ordinary kitchen, Ruby Wade found herself lost in thought while washing dishes one evening. Her hands moved through the warm water mechanically as her mind drifted away from its usual chatter. It was in this simple moment, free from the strain of seeking signs or forcing revelation, that wisdom began to whisper through her being. The universe speaks not in thunderous proclamation, but in the gentle current that moves beneath daily life. When Ruby ceased demanding dramatic guidance, she discovered that intuition flowed naturally through her quieted awareness. The dishes became her meditation, each plate a canvas for divine connection. Through this mundane ritual, she learned that spiritual guidance manifests not as blazing symbols, but as subtle knowing, a soft certainty that needs no external validation. The teaching reveals that wisdom already lives within you, requiring only your willingness to listen without agenda. When you release the need for spectacular confirmation, you find that every moment carries sacred direction. Consider Clyde Porter, who one evening felt an inexplicable urge to take an alternate route home. Having spent years forcing himself to follow rigid plans, he had begun practicing surrender to such quiet promptings. That night, rather than dismissing the subtle nudge as irrational, he allowed it to guide his steering wheel. This simple act of trust led him to a chance encounter with someone who would become his life partner, transforming his journey in ways his logical mind could never have orchestrated. The interpretation illuminates that synchronicity flows not from strategic planning, but from alignment with inner knowing. The universe orchestrates through feeling, not thinking. Your task is not to decipher signs, but to attune to the wordless wisdom that precedes thought. Ancient practice. Find a repetitive daily task: washing dishes, folding laundry, walking to get mail. As you move through this routine, release all effort to receive guidance. Simply rest in the motion, allowing your awareness to settle into pure sensation. Notice the temperature of water, the texture of fabric, the rhythm of your steps. When thoughts arise, let them pass without following. In this space of pure presence, feel the subtle current of knowing that moves beneath your actions. Trust the first whisper of intuition without demanding it justify itself. Let this practice remind you that guidance flows most clearly through surrendered attention. Through this seemingly mundane ritual, you open to the sacred stream of wisdom that has always flowed within you, waiting only for your gentle recognition. Chapter 12. The River of Allowing. In the shadow of ancient mountains, Betty Cross clutched her dreams like a map that must be followed precisely. Each morning she traced her goals with determined fingers, forcing each step with the intensity of one who believes control equals creation. Her calendar became a battlefield of crossed-out tasks and rigid schedules, each day a march toward manifestation that left her spirit weary. The universe speaks in whispers, yet Betty shouted her intentions until her voice grew hoarse. She pushed against time, against circumstance, against the very flow of life itself. But like water meeting stone, her resistance only created turbulence in what could have been a peaceful stream. Within this struggle lies a timeless truth. The law of attraction operates not through force, but through alignment. When you battle against what is, you create ripples that disturb the very current meant to carry you toward your desires. The universe requires not your strength, but your surrender. Consider how water moves through the world. It does not fight the earth beneath it, or rage against the banks that guide it. Instead, it flows with graceful acceptance, finding paths of least resistance, shaping landscapes not through combat, but through gentle persistence. Amos King discovered this wisdom beside the great river that curved through his valley. For years he had pushed against life's current, his shoulders tense with the effort of making things happen. One afternoon, exhausted from his struggles, he sat upon a sun-warmed rock and simply watched the water flow. As the river moved before him, something shifted in his understanding. The water did not strain or struggle. It simply allowed itself to be carried forward, embracing each curve and cascade with perfect trust. In that moment, Amos released his grip on outcome, and a profound peace settled over him like morning mist on still water. Within days, opportunities began appearing in his life with the same effortless grace as the river's flow. Doors opened without being forced, connections formed without being chased, and abundance arrived without being hunted. His surrender had become a form of power far greater than his previous striving. This ancient wisdom reminds us that the universe responds not to our force but to our frequency. When you align with the natural flow of creation, you discover that what you seek is already seeking you. Resistance is merely the ego's rebellion against the perfect grace that wishes to guide you home. Practice. Close your eyes and envision yourself as a leaf upon a river's surface. Feel how the current already knows the way to your destination. Release the oars of control, the paddles of planning, the desperate swimming of doing. Let peace become your motion. Trust your propulsion. Breathe into this surrender until you feel yourself being carried by a wisdom far greater than your own. In this gentle allowing, you become one with the stream of life itself, and manifestation flows as naturally as water, finding its way to the sea. Chapter 13. The Alignment Code. In the depths of a mountain village, Florence Dale filled notebooks with meticulous plans, each page a testament to her determined pursuit of dreams. Day after day, she wrote her goals in perfect penmanship, checking boxes and creating new lists when old ones yielded no fruit. Her shelves groaned under the weight of journals, yet her reality remained unchanged, a mirror reflecting back the discord between her thoughts and her feelings. The universe responds not to the ink of intention, but to the resonance of being. When your emotional frequency matches your desired reality, manifestation becomes as natural as water flowing downhill. Florence's lists spoke of wealth, yet her heart trembled with scarcity. Her words painted success, while her energy whispered doubt. This misalignment created a static that blocked the natural flow of abundance. The law of attraction operates through emotional electricity. Your feelings generate a specific frequency that draws matching circumstances into your experience. Like attracts like, not through the logic of plans, but through the magnetism of matched vibration. When your emotional state aligns with your desired outcome, you become an irresistible force of attraction. Everett Miles discovered this truth through an unexpected path. After his third business venture collapsed, he found himself doing something peculiar, laughing, not the hollow laughter of denial, but the genuine mirth of someone who understood life's cosmic dance. Instead of drafting recovery strategies, he began each morning feeling the joy of success as if it already existed. He played with possibility rather than wrestling with reality. Within weeks, opportunities began appearing like shy animals drawn to stillness. A chance meeting led to a partnership, which blossomed into prosperity. His success seemed effortless because his emotional state had already claimed it. The external simply followed the internal, as it always does. The ancient practice. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and summon the emotional essence of your desire fulfilled. If it's abundance you seek, feel the peace of financial security. If it's love, embrace the warmth of deep connection. Let this feeling saturate every cell until your body hums with the frequency of completion. Hold this vibration for several minutes, allowing yourself to become the emotional match for what you wish to attract. Practice this alignment daily, knowing that as you maintain this frequency, the physical world must respond in kind. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The Sanctuary Within. Nora Blyth traversed mountain peaks and distant valleys, her sandals worn thin from seeking wisdom in ancient stones. Each temple promised revelation, yet something remained hollow in her quest. She collected prayers like souvenirs, thinking truth must dwell in elaborate rituals and gilded halls. The universe speaks in whispers that echo not from distant peaks, but from the chamber of your own heart. When you chase enlightenment across external landscapes, you overlook the temple that breathes within. Your consciousness is the sacred ground where all manifestation begins. Monroe Ellis never planned his awakening. One autumn morning, while mending the broken slats of his garden fence, divinity touched him through splinters and rust. As his hands worked the weathered wood, time dissolved into timelessness. The simple act of repair became communion with the infinite. In that moment, he understood. Holiness permeates everything when you cease separating sacred from mundane. This truth rises from the depths of being. Sanctity requires no special location. The law of attraction operates through your state of awareness, not through coordinates on a map. When you recognize that consciousness itself is the temple, every breath becomes incense, every heartbeat a prayer. You need not journey far to touch the divine. The sacred dimension opens wherever you stand in full presence. Your kitchen sink holds as much potential for transformation as any monastery. Your daily commute can become a pilgrimage when traveled with awakened awareness. The universe asks not for special venues, but for special attention. The interpretation reveals itself. Sacredness is not a place to find, but a way of seeing. When you release the search for holy ground elsewhere, you discover it has always been here, waiting in plain sight. The ordinary world shimmers with extraordinary potential when viewed through eyes of presence. Practice. Pause where you are. Close your eyes and feel the air touching your skin. Notice how your breath moves like invisible incense, consecrating this moment. Let awareness expand until the boundary between sacred and mundane dissolves. Feel how the ordinary space around you begins to glow with divine potential. Rest here until you recognize that holiness has always been as close as your own heartbeat. Chapter 15. The Quantum Apology. In a small cottage overlooking the sea, Hazel Burke spent her days locked in memories that refused to fade. Each morning, she would sit at her weathered kitchen table, stirring her tea while stirring up old wounds. The weight of past decisions hung like heavy curtains, blocking the light of new possibilities from entering her life. The universe operates through precise spiritual mathematics. What you hold on to becomes the equation that shapes your tomorrow. When your thoughts continuously circle back to past regrets, you create an energetic loop that manifests as repeated patterns in your present reality. This is not punishment, but rather the perfect reflection of your inner state made visible. The law of attraction responds not to what happened, but to the vibration you maintain about what happened. When you clutch tightly to old hurts, you unknowingly send out a frequency that attracts similar situations, perpetuating the very experiences you wish to avoid. Dwight Carr understood this truth only after losing everything he owned. In his darkest hour, sitting in an empty apartment with nothing but mounting debts, he made a choice that seemed illogical to his rational mind. He forgave. First, he forgave those who owed him money but never paid. Then he forgave the business partner who had betrayed his trust. Finally, he forgave himself for all the choices that led to his current situation. Within days, unexpected opportunities began appearing. A forgotten client returned with a lucrative project. An old investment suddenly yielded returns. The universe responded not to his external circumstances, but to his internal liberation from the past. The spiritual truth reveals itself. Forgiveness is not merely an emotional release. It is a powerful reset button for your manifesting frequency. When you release others from the prison of your judgment, you simultaneously free yourself from the energetic chains that bind you to unwanted patterns. The practice of timeline. Transmutation. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and bring to mind a situation that still carries emotional charge. Breathe deeply and say silently, "I release you, I release me, I release us all." Continue this gentle mantra until you feel the subtle shift in your chest, the lightening that signals energetic liberation. Allow each breath to carry away the dense energy of the past until you sense yourself floating in the pure potential of the present moment. Chapter 16. The Invisible Guest. Once there was a woman named Sadie Flint who walked through crowded markets and bustling streets, yet felt an emptiness no human presence could fill. Though surrounded by faces and voices, a deep void echoed within her heart. Each smile she offered felt like a mask, each conversation a reminder of her isolation. The universe speaks through feeling, not circumstance. When you perceive yourself as separate, you broadcast a frequency of isolation that materializes as continued solitude. This perception creates a veil between you and the constant companionship of universal presence. The truth remains, you exist within an ocean of connection, supported by forces beyond physical sight. This sacred knowledge reveals that loneliness is not a reality but a temporary misalignment with your natural state of union. When you release the belief in separation, you allow your energy to harmonize with the eternal presence that surrounds you. This presence then begins to manifest in physical form through synchronized encounters, meaningful connections, and supportive relationships that mirror your inner knowing of companionship. Milton Crane discovered this truth during a period of profound loss. After his business partnership dissolved, leaving him without direction, He began to sense an inexplicable comfort in his solitude. Rather than fighting the feeling of being alone, he embraced the subtle guidance he felt during quiet moments. He noticed small signs: a book falling open to exactly the right page, a chance encounter that led to an opportunity, a sudden impulse that guided him to the perfect location at the perfect time. As Milton's trust in this invisible support deepened, physical allies began appearing in his life. A mentor emerged, offering exactly the wisdom he needed. New business partners aligned with his vision manifested seemingly out of nowhere. What had begun as a recognition of universal companionship transformed into tangible evidence of support. Your experience mirrors this eternal truth. When you acknowledge the presence of universal companionship, it must take form in your physical reality. The law of attraction responds not to your outer circumstances, but to your inner knowing of connection. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment and close your eyes. Breathe deeply and acknowledge the invisible presence that surrounds you. Whisper words of gratitude to this unseen support, feeling the truth of companionship in every cell of your being. Continue until you sense the shift from isolation to connection, knowing that your recognition of this presence is already drawing its physical manifestation toward you. Chapter 17. The Frequency of Joy. In the quiet corners of her apartment, Mabel York arranged empty spaces for future treasures. She dusted shelves destined for awards not yet won, and straightened picture frames that would someday hold memories still unmade. "When my dreams come true," she whispered each morning, "then I'll have reason to smile." But her delayed joy kept those dreams just beyond reach, like clouds that shift their shape whenever touched. The universe speaks through vibration, not conditions. When you withhold your light until circumstances align, you tell creation that abundance must precede gratitude. Yet the eternal law remains. Happiness is the seed, not the harvest. Your radiance must first illuminate the path for manifestation to follow. Wilbur Greer understood this truth while sweeping floors at night in a corporate tower. Rather than resent his position, he filled empty hallways with quiet laughter, treating each moment as though it already contained everything he desired. He spoke to his broom as though it were a microphone, practiced presentations to vacant offices, and carried himself with the dignity of an executive while polishing windows. Within 3 months, a late-working manager noticed his infectious spirit. "I've never seen someone so content," she remarked. Soon after, Wilbur found himself in training for supervision, then management. His joy had magnetized its mirror, transforming mundane moments into stepping stones toward greater heights. This mirrors an ancient truth. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are being in each moment. When you postpone your light until conditions change, you anchor yourself to waiting. But when you choose to shine regardless of circumstance, reality has no choice but to reflect that radiance back to you. Sacred practice. Select one ordinary moment in your day, perhaps while washing dishes or waiting in line. In that seemingly insignificant space, choose to feel complete joy without any external reason. Let your heart expand as though everything you've ever wanted has already arrived. Hold this feeling until it becomes more real than your surroundings. Notice how the world begins to orchestrate itself around your inner light. bringing unexpected gifts that match your elevated frequency. Chapter 18. The Permission Slip. In a small cottage chapters among rolling hills, Lucy Barr filled every moment with ceaseless motion. Her calendar overflowed with tasks, each hour marked by the tyranny of achievement. She wore exhaustion like a badge of honor, believing that worth came only through endless doing. Each time her body whispered for rest, she silenced it with another cup of coffee, another hour of work, another promise to pause someday. The universe speaks through the wisdom of the body, yet so many souls have forgotten this ancient language. When fatigue descends, it carries a message not of weakness, but of wisdom. The tightness in your shoulders, the heaviness in your limbs. These are not obstacles to overcome, but invitations to remember a deeper truth. That being precedes doing, that rest is not the enemy of creation, but its very foundation. The law of attraction responds not to the volume of action, but to the quality of energy behind it. When you grant yourself permission to be still, you align with the natural rhythm of creation itself. Consider how a flower doesn't strain to bloom. It simply opens in its own perfect timing. Your manifestations flow with the same organic grace when you release the grip of constant doing. Calvin Pierce discovered this truth in an unexpected afternoon. As a painter, he had always believed inspiration required pursuit. But one day, exhausted from forcing creativity, he surrendered to his body's plea for rest. As he drifted into sleep, images began flowing through his consciousness, colors, forms, and compositions more vivid than any he had consciously conceived. Upon waking, he found his hand moving with effortless certainty, creating a series of paintings that would become his most celebrated works. This sacred truth echoes through the ages. Self-permission is the key that unlocks the flow of universal energy. When you honor your need for renewal, you open the channel through which inspiration naturally flows. Your worth is not measured in tasks completed, but in alignment maintained. Practice of sacred permission. Find a quiet space and settle into stillness. Place one hand on your heart, the other on your belly. Breathe deeply and speak these words silently. I grant myself complete permission to rest, renew, and receive. My worth is inherent, not earned. Stay here until you feel tension dissolving and renewal rising within. Let this moment of sacred pause become your gateway to effortless creation. Chapter 19. The Language of Feeling. In the quiet hours before dawn, Ella Rose dutifully recited her affirmations into the mirror, her voice clear and determined. Yet, beneath each word, an undercurrent of doubt flowed like a hidden stream, undermining the power of her practice. Though her tongue shaped perfect phrases of abundance and joy, her heart whispered stories of lack and limitation. The universe responds not to the poetry of our lips, but to the resonance of our being. When words and vibration misalign, it is the deeper frequency that shapes our reality. Like a masterful translator, the universal law reads the original text of emotion rather than the surface language of thought. Russell Mayfield discovered this truth in his garden. After years of speaking gratitude without results, he ceased his declarations entirely. Instead, he would sit among his flowers at sunrise, allowing appreciation to flow through him like morning light. He hummed softly, not forming words but letting pure feeling rise from his chest into the air. Within weeks, his garden flourished beyond measure, and this abundance spilled into every aspect of his life. His relationships deepened, opportunities bloomed, and joy became his natural state. All without speaking a single affirmation. This truth unveils itself. Feeling is the first language of creation. Before words existed, the universe spoke in pure vibration. Your emotions are your native tongue in this cosmic conversation. When you align your inner frequency with your desired reality, manifestation flows as naturally as water seeking its level. To translate this wisdom into your own experience, find a quiet moment where you can simply be. Let all rehearsed affirmations fall away. Instead of speaking what you wish to create, allow yourself to feel it. Let gratitude rise naturally, like warmth from your heart. Notice how this pure feeling speaks more clearly than any carefully chosen words ever could. Ancient practice. Sit in silence for several minutes. Place your hand on your heart and allow whatever you desire to exist purely as feeling. Don't name it, describe it, or speak it. Simply feel it as though it already exists. Let this vibration fill your being until you become the very frequency of your desire. Practice this daily until feeling becomes your primary language of creation. Chapter 20. The Choice of Creation. In the quiet hours before dawn, Glenda Huff sat at her window questioning whether the stars had already written her story. For years she traced the same patterns in her life, watching circumstances repeat like seasons, wondering if free will existed at all. Each morning brought the same thoughts, the same worries, until the weight of predestination seemed absolute. The universe speaks through vibration, not through rigid decree. What appears as fate is merely a frequency maintained through unconscious habit. Your thoughts and feelings create an energetic signature that the universe faithfully mirrors back to you. When you believe in limitation, you transmit the frequency of constraint, and life responds accordingly. The power to reshape destiny lies in your capacity to shift your vibrational offering. Every moment presents an opportunity to choose anew, to paint with different colors on the canvas of consciousness. Your future is not written in stone, but in the fluid medium of energy, responding instantly to the artist of your awareness. Harvey Boone understood this truth when he found himself trapped in cycles of scarcity. Instead of accepting this as his predetermined path, he began to imagine himself as abundance embodied. Each morning he would sit in silence, feeling the reality of prosperity flowing through his being. He didn't merely think about wealth, he became the frequency of wealth itself. Within weeks, his external reality began shifting. New opportunities appeared, unexpected doors opened, and resources flowed as though they had always been waiting for his signal. Harvey hadn't changed his actions as much as he had changed his energetic signature. By choosing a new vibration, he had essentially chosen a new destiny. This truth reveals that you are not bound by past patterns or predetermined paths. You are the artist of your reality, holding the brush of intention in every moment. When you understand that fate is simply the echo of sustained frequency, you recognize your power to compose a different song. The universe responds not to your history, but to your present vibration. It mirrors back precisely what you are being, not what you have been. This is why transformation can happen in an instant, because reality is infinitely responsive to the frequency you choose to embody now. Practice. As the sun rises tomorrow, sit in the sacred knowledge that you are the artist of your destiny. Feel the brush of creation in your hands. Sense the infinite canvas before you. Allow yourself to vibrate the reality you choose to create, knowing that your frequency is the master painter of your experience. Let this feeling infuse your being until you recognize yourself as the creator, not the created. Part 3. The Becoming. Chapter 21. The Light Beyond Trying. Once, in a time not far from now, Birdie Cole gripped the reins of her life so tightly her knuckles turned white. Each morning she plotted her path to success with military precision, scheduling, planning, controlling every variable she could name. Her calendar bulged with strategies. Her mind raced with contingencies. Her heart grew heavy with the weight of constant vigilance. Yet the more she grasped, the more life slipped through her fingers like water. Clients delayed, projects stalled, opportunities dissolved. The universe seemed deaf to her demanding whispers until one autumn evening, exhaustion finally claimed its victory. As she sat in her garden, watching leaves fall without instruction, a profound truth dawned. Those golden leaves danced more gracefully in their surrender than she had ever moved in her control. When Birdie finally released her grip on outcomes, success began flowing like a spring that had always run beneath her feet. She discovered that life required not her management, but her radiance, the simple permission to be as she was, to shine without agenda. This truth found echo in Eugene Rowe's journey. A craftsman who had once forced his art through rigid formulas, Eugene learned to let his hands flow with intuition rather than rules. The moment he relaxed his hold on technique, his work began speaking with a voice that drew admirers from across continents. Orders flowed effortlessly. Recognition arrived unsought. Abundance bloomed in the soil of his surrender. The law speaks clearly through their stories. Effort creates resistance while allowing creates flow. When you cease trying to manipulate the current of life, you become the current itself. Your natural radiance, unconstrained by doubt or force, magnetizes all that aligns with your true frequency. The practice. Find a quiet moment and settle into stillness. Breathe deeply and imagine yourself as pure light, requiring no permission to shine. With each breath, release the need to manage outcomes. Feel yourself glowing simply because that is your nature, like a star that never questions its brilliance. Let this gentle radiance expand until being replaces all doing. Rest here until you sense the shift from effort to essence, from trying to shining. Chapter 22. The Hidden Exit. In the depths of winter, Cora James stood at the threshold of financial collapse. Her once thriving gallery, built through years of meticulous planning and relentless effort, teetered on the edge of bankruptcy. Night after night, she pored over spreadsheets, crafted recovery strategies, and willed solutions into being. Yet each attempt at control only hastened the inevitable descent. One morning, as dawn painted the empty gallery walls, something within her quietly surrendered, not with drama or despair, but with the gentle acceptance of a leaf releasing from its branch. In that moment, she discovered what centuries of mystics have whispered, that true power awakens only when the illusion of control dissolves. The universe operates through an ancient wisdom. What we clutch, we lose. What we release, returns, transformed. This truth reveals itself not through intellectual understanding, but through lived experience. When Cora finally stopped fighting reality, reality began dancing with her dreams. Within days of her surrender, a wealthy collector appeared, drawn not by her business strategies, but by the authentic peace now radiating from her presence. He purchased her entire collection, transforming imminent ruin into unexpected abundance. Yet the real miracle wasn't the financial salvation. It was the discovery of that invisible doorway that opens only when we stop pushing against life. Myron Lee's story echoes this wisdom. As a renowned mathematician, he approached manifestation like an equation to be solved. Every desire became a problem requiring precise calculation. For years, he mapped probabilities, charted synchronicities, and attempted to decode the universe's operating system. Success remained elusive until the morning his calculations scattered in the wind. Sitting among the scattered papers, Myron laughed, a deep, genuine laugh that shattered his need for certainty. In that moment, he stepped through the same invisible door Cora had found. Within weeks, the breakthrough that had eluded his analytical mind emerged effortlessly in a dream. These stories illuminate a fundamental truth. The universe responds not to our strategies, but to our state of being. When we release the need to understand or control the how, we align with a wisdom far greater than our limited perspectives. Surrender becomes not an act of defeat, but a gateway to infinite possibility. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment and close your eyes. Imagine a doorway of pure light before you. This is the threshold between struggle and grace. As you step through, feel the weight of control dissolving from your shoulders. Let each breath carry you deeper into trust until resistance becomes a distant memory. Rest here until peace becomes your native tongue, and struggle fades like an echo of an old language you no longer need to speak. Chapter 23. The New Gravity. In the stillness of dawn, Ida Moss discovered a truth that would transform her understanding of manifestation forever. Having spent years pushing against circumstances, forcing her way through life's challenges, she experienced a profound shift in awareness. One morning, while tending to her garden, she noticed how flowers naturally reached toward the sun, not through effort, but through an inherent response to light. This observation revealed the subtle law of vibrational gravity. Just as physical objects respond to Earth's gravitational pull, circumstances and experiences naturally orient themselves around your energetic center. When you elevate your thoughts and feelings, you create an invisible force field that draws similar frequencies into your orbit. For Ida, this understanding marked the end of struggle. Rather than pushing against unwanted circumstances, she began cultivating an inner state of expansion. She noticed that when she maintained this elevated frequency, opportunities and solutions naturally gravitated toward her, just as planets circle their sun. The universe responds not to what you chase, but to what you become. This principle manifested clearly in Victor Gray's experience. As a bookshop owner, Victor had initially tried to attract customers through aggressive marketing and constant promotion. Yet success remained elusive until he shifted his approach entirely. Instead of pushing outward, Victor focused on cultivating an atmosphere of genuine warmth and tranquility within his store. He imagined kindness as a tangible force, like gravity emanating from his center. Soon, people began lingering in the shop, drawn not by advertisements, but by the peaceful energy he maintained. His business flourished not through effort, but through the natural attraction of aligned frequencies. Your vibrational state creates a gravitational field that shapes reality around you. When you maintain an elevated frequency of peace, joy, or gratitude, you establish a center of positive mass that naturally draws supporting circumstances into your experience. This is not metaphor, but universal law, as real as the force that holds planets in their orbits. This principle operates continuously, whether you're conscious of it or not. Every thought, every feeling generates its own gravitational pull. Lower frequencies attract experiences that match their density, while higher vibrations draw circumstances that reflect their light. Sacred practice. Find a comfortable space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and imagine yourself as a center of serene, radiant energy. Feel this peaceful vibration expanding outward from your heart, creating a gentle gravitational field. Without effort or strain, simply maintain this centered state of calm joy. Notice how your breath naturally aligns with this frequency. Let this become your natural state of being, trusting that reality will orbit harmoniously around your elevated vibration. Remain here until you feel the subtle shift from doing to being, from effort to effortless attraction. Chapter 24. The Seamless Life. In a small apartment overlooking the city, Josie Bloom maintained two distinct lives. Her spiritual practice occupied the meditation cushion in the corner, while daily tasks filled the rest of her space with what she deemed ordinary existence. Each morning, she would rise early for prayer and contemplation, only to shut that sacred door when attending to household duties. The universe watched as she created this artificial divide, waiting patiently for understanding to dawn. The law of attraction operates not in segments but in wholeness. When you partition your consciousness between spiritual and mundane, you fracture the very power that magnetizes your desires. This separation creates resistance, like a river divided against itself, weakening the natural flow of abundance. In the depths of your being, no distinction exists between sacred and ordinary. Each breath carries the same divine potential, whether drawn in meditation or while washing dishes. The universe does not recognize these human categories. It responds to the unified vibration of your complete experience. Ross Merrill discovered this truth in the most unexpected sanctuary, his local laundromat. Week after week, he approached the simple act of doing laundry with the same reverence he brought to his spiritual studies. As he sorted colors from whites, he felt the subtle energy of creating order in the universe. While folding warm towels, he experienced the same peace that meditation had once reserved for itself. His revelation came not in separating spiritual practice from daily life, but in dissolving the boundary between them. Each sock paired became an act of harmony. Each wrinkle smoothed an expression of care for the fabric of existence. Without trying to make laundry spiritual, he allowed its inherent sacredness to emerge. Soon, his entire life transformed. The energy once spent maintaining artificial boundaries now flowed freely through every action. Abundance followed naturally, not because he had mastered manifestation techniques, but because he had unified his vibration across all activities. This truth extends into every corner of your existence. The The universe does not differentiate between moments spent in prayer and moments spent paying bills. It responds to your complete energetic signature. The sum total of how you move through each moment, regardless of its apparent significance. Sacred practice. Settle into any ordinary task before you. Washing dishes, organizing papers, preparing food. Breathe deeply and allow yourself to feel the divine presence within this simple act. Notice how the energy shifts when you release the need to categorize this moment as spiritual or mundane. Continue this practice until you feel the seamless flow of sacred awareness through every gesture, every breath, every ordinary miracle of daily life. Chapter 25. The Practice of Knowing. In a quiet corner of her office, Nancy Hart meticulously tracked every manifestation attempt in spreadsheets, searching for patterns that would prove her alignment with universal law. Each evening she would review her progress, marking successes and failures, believing that evidence would finally grant her certainty. Yet with each analysis, her connection to Source grew more tenuous, like water slipping through tightly clenched fingers. The universal law flows beyond the realm of measurement. When you seek proof before believing, you create resistance to the very abundance awaiting expression. Truth resides in the knowing that requires no external validation, a knowing as natural as your breath, as certain as gravity's embrace. Perry Long understood this principle through an unexpected awakening. As a former statistician, he had built his career on data and probability. Yet one morning, gazing at his reflection, he experienced a profound shift. Without reason or evidence, he knew, truly knew, that his dream of creating a revolutionary educational program would manifest. He set aside his market research and probability models, choosing instead to operate from pure, unwavering certainty. What followed seemed to defy logic. Investors appeared without solicitation, resources aligned without effort, doors opened that he hadn't even knocked upon. His success emerged not from careful calculation, but from that space of knowing that transcends rational thought. This exemplifies the subtle truth that certainty is not a result, but a frequency, one that magnetically draws its physical equivalent into form. When you require proof to believe, you broadcast doubt's frequency. But when you stand in knowing, reality reshapes itself to match your inner conviction. The universal law responds not to evidence but to essence. Your role is not to prove manifestation, but to embody the frequency of its completion. Like a tree that never questions whether spring will arrive, your certainty becomes the soil from which manifestation naturally blooms. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space and stand with your feet planted firmly on the ground. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Feel certainty filling your body like golden light. No need to force or convince. Simply allow yourself to know, as naturally as you know the sun will rise. Maintain this stance of quiet confidence until you sense reality aligning with your knowing. Let this become your natural state of being. Chapter 26. The Soft Power. In the dim hours before dawn, Bonnie Reese stood at her mirror, voice rising with each affirmation until her throat strained. Each morning, she declared her intentions with increasing force, believing that volume equaled power. Yet her desires seemed to retreat further with every forceful proclamation, like shy deer startled by sudden movement. The universe speaks in whispers, not shouts. This truth reveals itself in the spaces between breaths, in the quiet moments when striving ceases. What Bonnie discovered, after months of exhausting herself with loud declarations, was that manifestation flows through the gentlest channels. Like water finding its path, the law of attraction operates with subtle precision. It responds not to the volume of our requests, but to the depth of our alignment. When Bonnie finally lowered her voice to a whisper, she felt a new power awakening, the power of gentle certainty. Otis Wynn, a master craftsman, understood this principle through his work with delicate materials. Each morning he would enter his workshop and quietly commune with his creations. Rather than commanding his materials to bend to his will, he learned to whisper his intentions into the grain of the wood, the weave of the fabric, the flow of the paint. His gentleness yielded masterpieces that force could never have achieved. One morning, as Otis guided his brush across canvas with barely a touch, he witnessed how the paint responded to his lightest suggestion. The colors flowed and blended with an ease that no amount of forceful application could have produced. His work began appearing in galleries, not because he pushed for recognition, but because his gentle mastery spoke volumes in silence. The universal field responds to the subtlety of our energy. Like a sensitive instrument, it calibrates to our finest frequencies. When we learn to modulate our power from forceful to gentle, we align with the natural flow of creation. This is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. The interpretation lies in understanding that the universe mirrors our energy signature. Loud demands create resistance, while gentle knowing allows manifestation to unfold naturally. When we shift from pushing to allowing, from shouting to whispering, we enter the realm of true power. Practice. Rest in perfect stillness. Hold your intention like a delicate soap bubble, neither grasping nor directing. Feel its weightless presence in your consciousness. Breathe softly, allowing your desire to float freely in the space of pure potential. Notice how this gentle holding creates an opening for the universe to respond with equal grace. Let your intention drift like a feather on the breeze until it gently settles into physical form. Chapter 27. The Spiral Return. In a small cottage overlooking misty hills, Daphne Cook sat surrounded by journals chronicling her spiritual journey. Each page revealed the same patterns emerging again and again: relationships dissolving, financial setbacks, creative blocks. With each familiar challenge, her heart sank deeper into despair, interpreting repetition as cosmic punishment for some unseen flaw. Within the eternal wisdom lies a gentler truth. Life moves not in circles, but in spirals. What appears as repetition serves as sacred refining fire, each turn lifting consciousness to more expansive understanding. The universe orchestrates not punishment, but purification, each cycle carrying deeper invitation to mastery. When old patterns resurface, they arrive not to confirm failure, but to test new strength. Like a master craftsman returning to sharpen already honed skills, the soul revisits familiar territory with expanded capacity. What once overwhelmed now serves as catalyst for quantum evolution. Floyd Avery discovered this truth in his woodworking shop. For years he struggled with intricate dovetail joints, each attempt ending in splintered frustration. Rather than abandon the technique, he recognized each failure as a spiral step upward. Every return to the challenge carried new awareness, until his hands moved with the grain instead of against it. The wood that once resisted now yielded to his elevated understanding. The law of attraction responds not to linear progress, but to vibrational refinement. When patterns cycle back, they offer opportunity to transmute old frequency into higher resonance. Each spiral turn invites deeper surrender, until resistance dissolves into allowing. Your recurring themes are not punishment but polish, smoothing rough edges of consciousness until light flows unimpeded. When familiar challenges appear, welcome them as spiritual strength training, knowing each spiral lifts you higher than before. The practice. When you notice old patterns returning, pause and breathe deeply. Rather than contracting in fear of repetition, expand into knowing this represents spiritual graduation. Feel the spiral nature of growth lifting you gently upward. Adjust your vibration slightly higher, like turning a radio dial toward clearer frequency. Let your acknowledgement of the spiral path transform resistance into graceful ascension. Continue this practice until each return feels not like setback, but sacred evolution. Chapter 28. The Joy of Service. In a small coastal village, Hattie Lynn stood each morning before her mirror, reciting manifestation rituals focused solely on receiving. Her shelves overflowed with journals listing desires, yet abundance remained elusive. One stormy evening, watching waves crash upon shore, she witnessed how each retreating wave left precious shells behind. Nature's endless cycle of giving spoke ancient wisdom into her heart. The universe operates through sacred circulation. Like breath itself, life flourishes in the rhythm of giving and receiving. When you grasp too tightly at outcomes, you interrupt this divine flow. Your very attachment creates resistance in the cosmic current that longs to bring you abundance. The law of attraction responds not to what you want, but to what you are willing to become. When you shift from getting to giving, you align with the universe's natural tendency toward expansion. Each genuine act of contribution creates ripples that return multiplied, for giving demonstrates trust in abundance itself. Consider how a tree releases its fruit without demand for return, yet this very release ensures its seeds spread far and wide, creating entire forests. Similarly, your generous spirit plants seeds of prosperity that bloom in unexpected ways. Nelson Drew discovered this truth in the quiet hours of dawn. A skilled craftsman, he had spent years carefully tracking every minute spent on projects, every dollar earned. Yet true prosperity eluded him until the day he began freely sharing his knowledge with aspiring woodworkers. As he taught without expectation, his workshop mysteriously filled with new opportunities, valuable commissions, and resources that seemed to arrive precisely when needed. The interpretation illuminates a profound truth. Giving completes the circuit of abundance. When you contribute from joy rather than obligation, you tap into the universe's unlimited flow. Your generosity becomes a declaration of faith in life's abundance, and the universe must respond in kind. The sacred practice. Choose one heartfelt act of giving today, offered purely from joy. It need not be grand, perhaps a genuine smile, a moment of full attention, or sharing of your unique gifts. As you give, feel the warm current of energy flowing through you, knowing it must return multiplied. Let your giving become a celebration of abundance rather than a means to receive. Notice how this shift in energy begins attracting unexpected blessings, completing the sacred circle of infinite supply. Chapter 29. The Horizon Within. In the depths of a mountain valley, Irene Tate filled her days pursuing distant dreams, scaling career heights and chasing material summits. Each morning she would rush past her window, blind to the rising sun, focused only on conquering the next peak of achievement. Yet despite reaching countless goals, a hollowness echoed through her victories. The more she accumulated externally, the emptier she felt within. The universe speaks through paradox. What we chase often recedes, while what we become naturally attracts. True expansion flows not from external pursuit, but from internal awakening. When consciousness opens like the morning flower, reality responds in kind. Your outer world can only expand to the degree your inner awareness has bloomed. Gerald Frost discovered this truth in an unexpected moment. For years he had been a respected architect, designing grand structures that reached toward the sky. One morning, exhausted from endless striving, he sat quietly in his garden instead of rushing to his drafting table. As he turned his attention inward, he noticed his consciousness was itself a vast blueprint, an infinite space of possibility. In that moment of inner witnessing, Gerald realized that all outer forms first take shape in the sanctuary of awareness. The more he explored his internal landscape, the more his external creations began to reflect that boundless dimension. His designs shifted from forced ambition to inspired emergence. Clients marveled at how his buildings seemed to capture something timeless, something that spoke to the infinite within their own hearts. The teaching reveals a fundamental truth. Your perception shapes your reality. When you awaken to the vastness within, the world mirrors that expansion. Like a lake reflecting the sky, your external circumstances can only reflect the breadth of your inner vista. This is not metaphor, but living law. The outer must follow the inner, as surely as dawn follows the turning of the earth. Practice. Each morning, before engaging with the outer world, sit quietly and witness your inner atmosphere. Feel the spaciousness of pure awareness, vast as the sky itself. Let this inner light saturate your being until it naturally spills into your perception of the external world. Watch how the ordinary begins to shimmer with the same luminosity you've contacted within. This is not imagination, but the law of resonance at work, your awakened consciousness transforming everything it touches. Chapter 30. The End of Seeking. In a small cottage overlooking the sea, Beulah Kirk spent decades pursuing every spiritual practice imaginable. Her shelves overflowed with manifestation journals, vision boards, and carefully crafted affirmations. Yet peace remained elusive, dancing just beyond her grasp like morning mist over the waves. One ordinary afternoon, while brewing her tea, Beulah noticed something shift. The familiar ache of wanting more, wanting different, wanting better, had grown so constant she'd nearly forgotten it was there. But in this moment, as steam rose from her cup, the wanting fell away. Not through achievement or acquisition, but through a simple recognition. Peace wasn't waiting in some future attainment. It was the natural state beneath all that seeking. The universe speaks through paradox. The more intensely we chase what we desire, the more it seems to recede. Yet when we release the chase entirely, we discover what we sought was never separate from us at all. This is the deepest teaching of manifestation, that ultimate fulfillment comes not from getting what we want, but from dissolving the sense of want itself. Lester Hale's story mirrors this truth. As a merchant who traveled the world collecting rare treasures, he believed satisfaction lay in the next exotic port, the next precious find. Until one day, sitting empty-handed in his study surrounded by his collections, he realized all his acquisitions had been attempts to fill a space that could only be filled by presence itself. In that moment of surrendering the search, Lester experienced what centuries of wisdom traditions have pointed to, that everything we seek through outer circumstances is already here, waiting to be recognized in the silence of our own being. His collections didn't lose their beauty, but they no longer carried the burden of providing his fulfillment. The completion we chase through manifestation is not found in changing our external reality, but in awakening to the abundance inherent in reality itself. When we release the habit of seeking, we discover we are what we sought. The universe is not withholding anything. It is waiting for us to notice the gift that was given at the beginning. Ancient practice. Find a quiet space and sit comfortably. Let your breath settle into its natural rhythm. Notice the subtle feeling of being alive in this moment. Without trying to change anything, rest in the awareness that what you are seeking is seeking you. Feel the completeness that is already here, prior to all doing and becoming. Let existence bow around you as you recognize that seeker and sought are one breath, one being, one truth, eternally recognizing itself through you. Part 4. The Infinite Continuation. Chapter 31. The Circle of Receiving. In an ancient village, beneath the shade of a wizened olive tree, Tessa Vaughn spent her days baking bread for neighbors while her own cupboards grew bare. Each morning she would rise before dawn, kneading dough with hands worn thin from endless giving, believing that abundance meant constant outpouring without pause for replenishment. The universe speaks in circles, not lines. When you resist receiving, you break the sacred loop through which all abundance flows. Like breath itself, the giving of exhale cannot exist without the receiving of inhale. This natural rhythm reveals the deeper truth. Giving and receiving are not opposing forces, but twin aspects of the same divine current. Many souls stumble here, believing virtue lies in perpetual giving while denying themselves the grace of receiving. Yet this imbalance creates resistance in the very flow they seek to nurture. When you close yourself to receiving, you unknowingly declare to the universe that you believe in lack, rather than abundance. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating the very depletion you fear. Grady Owens discovered this truth in the quiet dawn of his woodshop. For years, he had crafted furniture for others, refusing payment beyond the bare minimum, believing that asking fair value somehow diminished the purity of his giving. Then one morning, a stranger left a beautifully carved box on his doorstep, a gift with no name attached. His first impulse was to refuse it, to search for its source so he could return it. But something deeper stirred within him, a whisper of ancient wisdom that said, "To refuse this gift is to deny someone else's joy of giving." That moment transformed him. As he allowed himself to receive with grace, his work began flowing with new energy. Clients appeared offering exactly what his creations were worth, and his prosperity grew naturally, effortlessly, not through grasping, but through allowing the completion of the circle. The key lies in understanding that receiving is not taking, It is participating in the universe's natural flow. When you accept a gift with genuine gratitude, you multiply its energy, creating ripples of abundance that return to bless both giver and receiver. This is the sacred alchemy that transforms simple exchange into infinite expansion. Practice. Find a quiet moment and sit comfortably. Recall a time someone offered you a gift, whether material or intangible. Notice any resistance that arose in receiving it. Now, imagine that gift as pure light flowing into your heart. With each breath, allow yourself to receive this light fully, completely. Feel how your acceptance creates space for even greater giving. Let gratitude fill you until receiving feels as natural as giving, until you recognize them as one continuous circle of love. This is the practice of sacred completion, where abundance flows without beginning or end. Chapter 32. The Bridge of Wonder. In the quiet corners of an office building, Claudia Bell arranged spreadsheets with mechanical precision, her eyes glazed with the certainty of adulthood. Each day followed its predicted path until numbers blurred into gray routines. She had forgotten the spark that once made her pause at spider webs glistening with morning dew or trace shapes in passing clouds. The world, once alive with possibility, had solidified into stark equations. The universe speaks through wonder. This ancient truth whispers beneath the noise of logic. When eyes grow dull to magic, manifestation retreats like shy creatures from heavy footsteps. Your natural state is not one of weary knowing, but of endless discovery. The mind that believes it has catalogued all possibilities builds walls against miracles. Yet the law of attraction responds most powerfully to the frequency of innocent amazement. When you release the grip of rigid understanding, reality becomes fluid again, ready to reshape itself according to your restored vision. Preston Shaw understood this transformation through an accidental moment. During his lunch breaks, he began sketching cloud formations, at first merely to pass time. As his attention shifted to the ever-changing shapes above, something awakened in him, a remembrance of childhood wonderment. He started seeing connections in the patterns, solutions hidden in shifting forms. This simple practice of sky-watching opened channels of inspiration that his analytical mind had long sealed shut. Soon, Preston found himself sketching designs for gentle machines that worked in harmony with nature's rhythms. His patents brought forth innovations that seemed to emerge from nowhere. Yet they had always existed in the space between imagination and possibility. His success flowed not from striving, but from the restoration of wonder. The universe yearns to show you its infinite facets, but it requires your willing amazement. Like a flower opening to sunlight, reality unfolds before the gaze of curiosity. Your task is not to solve life's mysteries, but to fall in love with them again. In this simple truth lies a profound key to manifestation. Wonder is not merely a response to magic. It is the magnetic force that draws magic near. When you approach each moment with fresh eyes, the law of attraction responds by presenting fresh possibilities. Practice. As you move through your day, pause 3 times to notice something you typically overlook. It might be the intricate pattern of tree bark, the dance of dust motes in sunlight, or the subtle shades of color in an ordinary stone. Let yourself marvel at its existence as though seeing it for the first time. Feel how this shift in attention creates a subtle current of aliveness in your body. This is the frequency of wonder activating, opening invisible doors through which new realities can enter. Chapter 33. The Garden of Frequencies. In a small town between rolling hills, Betsy Quinn meticulously tended her external garden while waging war against her internal landscape. Each morning she would attempt to uproot any trace of sadness, anger, or fear that dared sprout within her consciousness. Like many seekers of truth, she believed that spiritual evolution meant cultivating only the sunniest dispositions while banishing all darker blooms to shadow. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, speaks through the language of contrast. Just as a garden requires various minerals to flourish, your emotional spectrum carries essential nutrients for soul growth. Each feeling, whether labeled positive or negative by human perception, serves as sacred compost for expanded awareness. Roy Daniels discovered this truth while walking through his abandoned greenhouse after losing his life savings. Instead of forcing optimism, he began treating his grief with the same tender attention he once gave his prized orchids. As he allowed himself to feel fully, solutions appeared like morning glories opening to dawn. His acceptance created space for natural transformation, and soon his greenhouse flourished again, now offering healing herbs to those in need. Your emotional garden was never meant to be a perfectly manicured display of perpetual happiness. It is a wild and wonderful ecosystem where every feeling adds its unique medicine to the soil of your becoming. When you resist sadness, you also dam the depths from which joy springs. When you reject anger, you lose its clarifying fire that can forge new boundaries and understanding. The law of attraction responds not to the surface pleasantries you display, but to the authentic resonance of your full emotional presence. A garden forced into partial expression becomes sterile. It is only through embracing the complete spectrum that true abundance can flourish. Practice. Stand in your inner garden, naming each emotion as flower, allowing harmony to bloom without exclusion. Feel anxiety as morning glory stretching toward light, anger as passionate roses protecting tender growth, sadness as nurturing rain feeding deeper roots, and joy as sunflowers turning naturally toward warmth. Let each feeling be a valued part of your internal ecosystem, knowing that wholeness creates the richest soil for manifestation. Chapter 34. The Quiet Leap. In the quiet hours before dawn, Rosie Abbott sat surrounded by vision boards and carefully crafted plans, yet remained anchored to her chair by an invisible weight. Each morning she would scan the horizon for signs, waiting for absolute certainty before taking a single step toward her dreams. The universe whispered its gentle wisdom through the stillness, but Rosie's ears were tuned only to the loud demands of proof. Through the ages, the wise have understood that creation moves first in the unseen realm of faith before materializing in the physical world. Like a seed that must be planted in darkness before it can reach toward the light, manifestation requires that initial step into the unknown. The universe responds not to cautious calculation, but to the magnetic power of unwavering trust. Jerome Black embodied this timeless truth when he stood at the crossroads of his life. With no external evidence to support his choice, he stepped forward with a smile that seemed to illuminate the path before him. His certainty came not from visible guarantees, but from an inner knowing that transcended logic. As he moved forward, the world began to mirror his confidence. arranging itself around his faith like iron filings aligning with a magnet's field. This ancient principle reveals that action born of trust carries a different vibration than movement born of fear or desperation. When you step forward from a place of inner certainty, you are not gambling with fate, but dancing with it. Each motion becomes not a test of the universe's response, but a celebration of its ever-present support. Your relationship with the unseen determines the shape of what becomes seen. Like a master artist who sees the finished sculpture within the untouched stone, you must hold the vision of completion before the first chisel strike. This is not blind optimism, but the deepest form of knowing, the kind that exists beyond physical evidence. The sacred practice. Find a quiet moment and close your eyes. Feel deeply into the emotional reality of your desire already fulfilled. Let this feeling become so real that your body responds as though it is happening now. From this space of energetic completion, let your next action arise naturally, not as a means of making something happen, but as an expression of what has already occurred in consciousness. Move through your day from this place of inner certainty, treating each step as confirmation rather than question. The bridge of manifestation is built not from the solid ground of proof to the shore of dreams, but from the unwavering light of faith that illuminates each step precisely when needed. Chapter 35. The Song Beneath Words. Once upon a time in a small coastal village, Annie Lloyd filled notebooks with carefully crafted affirmations. Each morning and night she would stand before her mirror, mechanically reciting words that promised abundance and joy. Yet, with each passing day, the phrases grew hollow, echoing emptiness rather than emanating power. Her shoulders slumped under the weight of trying to believe what her lips spoke, but her heart couldn't feel. Through exhaustion, Annie discovered that universal law responds not to repetition, but to resonance. Words alone cannot bridge the gap between desire and manifestation. They must carry the current of authentic feeling. When affirmations become mere mental exercise, they lose their magnetic pull on reality. The universe listens for the music beneath the words, the pure tone of belief that rings true in the silence between syllables. It is not the precision of language that attracts, but the harmony of heart and voice united in unwavering faith. Clyde Hart understood this instinctively. A simple man with weathered hands, he spent his days maintaining the properties of others, whistling as he worked. While painting fences under the summer sun, his wordless melodies carried more genuine gratitude than any formal prayer. He never spoke of abundance, yet it flowed to him naturally. His bank account grew as steadily as the flowers along his fence lines, drawn to the authentic frequency of his contentment. The lesson crystallized through Clyde's experience. When gratitude becomes song rather than sentence, the universe orchestrates circumstances to match that frequency. His whistled appreciation created ripples in the field of possibility more powerful than any scripted affirmation could achieve. The interpretation reveals itself. Manifestation flows from the music of genuine feeling, not the mechanics of mental repetition. Truth must be sung from the soul, not recited from memory. When heart conducts and voice follows, reality arranges itself to complement the melody. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment and allow gratitude to rise naturally within you. Let it form its own gentle sound, perhaps a hum, a whispered word, or simply the music of your breath. Don't force specific words or tunes. Simply let appreciation flow through you as pure vibration until you feel the universe harmonizing with your heart's song. Continue until your whole being resonates with authentic thankfulness, knowing that this genuine frequency is already conducting the symphony of your manifestation. Chapter 36. The Thread of Now. In the quiet corners of her study, Charlotte Pope surrounded herself with journals filled with spiritual insights and vision boards depicting future dreams. Her shelves groaned under the weight of self-help books, each page highlighted and dog-eared. Yet, while she diligently reviewed past lessons and imagined future triumphs, life itself seemed to slip through her fingers like sand. The eternal truth whispers that manifestation occurs only in the present moment. While your mind wanders between yesterday's wisdom and tomorrow's possibilities, the power of creation pulses in the immediate now. Every instant contains infinite potential, waiting to be shaped by the focus of your awareness. When you scatter your energy across time, reliving memories or reaching for future visions, you dilute the magnetic force of presence. The universe responds not to what was or what might be, but to the vibration you embody in this breath, this heartbeat, this singular point of now. Dwight Neal discovered this wisdom in his humble kitchen. A former executive who once juggled endless projections and deadlines, he found himself drawn to the simple act of cooking. As he stirred a pot of soup one evening, something shifted. Rather than planning tomorrow's meeting or analyzing yesterday's choices, he poured his entire attention into the steam rising before him, the gentle swirl of broth, the aroma of herbs. In that complete presence, reality began to bend. The phone rang with unexpected opportunities. Friends appeared bearing exactly what he needed. Solutions to long-standing problems emerged in the rising steam. Without seeking, striving, or strategizing, life aligned perfectly through his devotion to the present moment. The universe orchestrates through presence, not through planning. When you fully inhabit the now, you touch the timeless field where all possibilities exist simultaneously. Your attention becomes the thread that draws forth the reality most aligned with your current vibration. Past lessons serve as stepping stones, and future visions offer direction, but the power to shape existence lives only in this eternal moment. When you merge completely with now, time expands into the infinite, and manifestation occurs with effortless grace. Sacred practice. Settle into this breath, this heartbeat. Feel the weight of your body, the texture of air on your skin. Draw your attention fully into this instant as though it were a golden thread connecting you to all possibility. Notice how presence itself begins to glow with aliveness. Let past and future fade until only now remains, shimmering with potential. Rest here, allowing reality to weave itself around the steady flame of your awareness. Feel how the universe moves through this moment, creating through your conscious presence rather than your mental effort. Chapter 37. The Completion That Begins. In the early morning hours, Sally Brooks would sit cross-legged on her meditation cushion, willing herself to transcend all earthly wants. She had read countless spiritual texts suggesting that enlightenment meant the cessation of desire. Day after day, she attempted to empty herself of longing, believing that spiritual mastery required this sacrifice. Yet the more she pushed away her natural inclinations, the more they seemed to haunt her with increasing intensity. The universe works not through elimination, but through transformation. As you journey deeper into spiritual truth, desires don't vanish. They evolve. Like water changing from ice to vapor, your wants transmute from desperate grasping to gentle preferences aligned with universal flow. Sally's breakthrough came unexpectedly while tending her garden. As she watched a flower unfold naturally in its own time, she realized that the blossom neither forced its opening nor denied its nature. It simply expressed its authentic being in perfect harmony with life's rhythm. In that moment, she understood that enlightenment wasn't about ending desires, but allowing them to mature into their highest expression. Calvin Marsh embodied this wisdom with remarkable grace. After years of spiritual seeking, he arrived at a place of profound contentment with what was. Yet rather than becoming passive, his state of acceptance opened him to an endless stream of aligned opportunities and experiences. He neither chased nor rejected. He simply allowed life to move through him with elegant ease. When you release the struggle against wanting, something miraculous occurs. Desires transform from desperate needs into gentle preferences, from demanding prayers into grateful invitations. This is the paradox of spiritual maturity. In accepting what is, you open the door to natural expansion. The ancient truth reveals itself. Enlightenment doesn't eliminate the dance of life, but allows you to move with it more gracefully. Your preferences become like leaves floating on a stream, neither forced nor resisted, but carried by the current of divine timing. The practice. Find a quiet space and settle into comfortable stillness. Allow your breath to become soft and natural. Notice any desires or wants arising in your awareness, but rather than pushing them away, simply observe them with gentle attention. Rest in satisfied silence, feeling complete exactly as you are. From this space of contentment, notice how new inspirations naturally bloom, not as desperate needs, but as beautiful expressions of your expanding wholeness. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. The hidden exit reveals itself not as destination but as recognition, the moment when seeking dissolves into being. You have walked through valleys of effort, climbed mountains of control, only to discover that manifestation requires no force, only alignment. The law of attraction operates not through desperate reaching, but through gentle allowing, the sweet surrender that transforms trying into trusting. When your affirmations fell silent, when your strategies crumbled, when your careful plans dissolved into apparent failure, these were not setbacks, but sacred invitations. Each collapse cleared space for authentic power to emerge. Every surrender calibrated your frequency closer to natural creation. The pauses between your thoughts became portals of pure potential. You now understand that manifestation flows not from the self that strives, but from the self that aligns. The universe responds not to demand, but to resonance, not to pleading, but to peaceful knowing. Your journey through these chapters has revealed that the door you sought was never locked. It was your own consciousness waiting to recognize itself as both creator and creation. This revelation marks not an ending but an infinite beginning. Each breath becomes a fresh opportunity to allow rather than force, to trust rather than control. The power you sought through endless doing now flows through simple being. Your presence becomes prayer. Your peace becomes pathway. The hidden exit was never a place to reach, but a truth to remember. You are not separate from the source of all creation. You are its conscious expression, its living breath. In this awareness, every moment opens into limitless potential, not through effort, but through essence. Let this understanding settle into your cells. Manifestation requires no force when you vibrate as the force itself. Your journey continues not through seeking, but through being, not through doing, but through allowing. The door was always open. You were always home.
If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.